Aviation and horology were two wings lifting up mankind's relationship with the progress of technology in the 20th century. And I'm very pleased to say that in the 21st century, horology still has strong ties to aviation. Indeed, there are many aviation-themed brands that are producing outstanding models at every level. Stalwart brands like Breitling have made substantial improvements to their classic models by the introduction of impressive in-house movements. Fresh brands like Bremont have renewed everyone's interest in the design of aviation watches by showing that there's more to explore. Even Patek Philippe surprised everyone last year by throwing their hat in the ring with an aviation-themed watch. But on the other end of the spectrum, excellent things are happening as well, as is the case with this watch, the Avi-8 Hawker Hurricane Mark I. Let's talk through some of the specifications of this watch, and I want to relate them to the architecture of the dial and the complications of this movement. We have a 42mm case, 22mm lugs, and an approximately 12mm thick case. On the case back, we see that this watch has a water resistance of 50 meters. It is a quartz movement, and it has a stainless steel case and case back. It also features, as you can see, an onion style crown, two pushers to operate the chronograph, and on the other side it has a sapphire crystal that is a single domed, single coated AR crystal. So we have a dome crystal here that is coated on the inside to help deal with some of the reflection that is inherent with dome crystals. Sapphire is a great crystal, an upgrade for this kind of watch at this price range, frankly, because it is one of the hardest synthetic materials that are available and something that all higher end watches will feature, at least unless you're talking about ones that have modern features. Like a Speedy Pro will have a plastic crystal, but that's just because it's a heritage feature. And the use of AR definitely cuts down on the glare on this crystal. It does have only a single dome, which means that there's still going to be some distortion at extreme angles, as you can see. To me, the best part of the Avi-8 Hawker Hurricane is the dynamic architecture of the dial. So first of all, just notice the number of layers that we have here. We have applied indices, we have applied Arabics on this top layer of dial here, and then we have a nice depth in the date aperture. Notice that nice metal layer, and then we have, of course, the best part of the watch, the roundel subdial for the chronograph. This roundel subdial basically is hearkening to the roundel that would have been found on the original Hawker Hurricanes on the sides of the planes as a marking. Now here, this roundel features a 1/10-second counter, and that is really a nice feature for someone who wants really precise times. And probably the real reason why it's here is just because it's really neat to watch. So let's just see how it looks. So as is typical for chronograph complications, you engage the chronograph by pushing that top pusher. And as you can see, that 1/10-second subdial springs to life, and it continues to tick away at a rapid pace, or at least a rapid pace as far as the eye is concerned, for an entire minute. You'll notice that a second subdial is at 6 o'clock, and that ticks away at the same rate as the large seconds hand on the three main hands of this watch. Now, on the 9 o'clock subdial, we have a minute counter. And so this is not a very traditional layout as far as a chronograph complication is concerned. This is totally a function of the type of movement that's in here, and this is a Seiko quartz chronograph, obviously with that date complication as well. It's a fairly commonplace movement actually as far as Seiko chronographs go, but the way that they've executed it in this Hawker Hurricane is definitely very unique. And when it hits the 60-second mark, you'll notice that the 1/10-second subdial just stops. Now, this is not only a reminder that you've hit your minute, but it's also a way for you to do more precise timing after that minute. You can only work that 1/10-second subdial for a second, though, and then it'll quit on its own. And then of course to reset, you reset with the bottom chronograph pusher down there, and it kind of winds backwards as a matter of fact. Now, this is not a very fast way to reset, but it is sort of theatrical, and so that's definitely appeal of this type of chronograph movement in this type of watch. There's really a lot of theater going on here. You've got layers of dial, you've got an asymmetrical layout that frankly draws your eye to the different features. I think that it's really nicely executed. I definitely think that it punches way above its price range as far as being visually engaging compared to many of the chronographs that are available at this price point. And altogether, I think that it's a real improvement from a lot of the other dials that we're seeing from Avi-8. So this is a very good step forward for this brand. Well, the dial is definitely a fresh take on the aviation style chronograph. The case, after a little bit of digging around, actually resembles a Tissot Heritage chronograph that I found an image of on Instagram, as a matter of fact. It has basically the same fixed bezel and square angular lug layout. One other way that the theme of the Hawker Hurricane is carried out in the watch is in this onion crown, and of course the colored themes match that of the World War II plane. Very handsome little touch, definitely makes that crown pop and makes the watch seem a little bit more distinct. I wanted to also just show you that this polish is very prone to fingerprints. I didn't wipe this off on purpose just because the advantage of polish is that if you do get actual scuffs and scratches, they're very easy to polish out with a Cape Cod cloth, but very often they are just going to be fairly messy looking. At least I'm finding myself having to clean off that polish quite a bit with this round case style. And although there is lume applied to both the hands and the dial, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's very uneven on the indices and Arabic markers, and it fades very quickly. Definitely not a chronograph I would want to take on any kind of night flights. Here's a shot of the watch on my 7¼ inch wrists. I would say that the large lugs and relative thickness of the watch definitely makes it seem like a large watch to wear, especially coupled with this robust leather pilot style strap. Nevertheless, it does fit under a lot of cuffs thanks to its fairly rounded design, and it is comfortable to wear. We have a thick padded style of strap here, very much in the pilot style of strap, with a Avi-8 branded logo on the inside. It is a stainless steel buckle here, and it is branded with the Avi-8 logo again. So again, this is, an improvement over many micro brands where this would be just ordered off the shelf and not changed at all. I think it has a lot of character for being a relatively new strap. I'm definitely breaking it in. I wouldn't say that it's the highest quality strap in the world, but for the price, it's definitely a very nice strap. So who is this watch for? Well, I would say it's for someone who's into affordable wristwatches, who wants an aviation-themed watch that carries a theme very effectively throughout the whole design of the watch. It's definitely for someone who likes aviation-style watches and maybe wants a very unique, affordable offering in their collection. So like this could work very nicely in a collection of Speedy Pros and Zeniths and Breitlings, and this would be a watch that would be distinct from all those different brands, those more well-known brands, and yet it would be totally unique in its own right. This nice bold white dial, the use of colors, it's definitely a watch that I think even someone with a disposable income for wristwatches will be able to appreciate. As soon as I saw Avi-8 coming out with this watch, I requested that they send this watch to me, and I've really enjoyed owning it the last couple months. I want to thank Avi-8 for sending it to me, and I want you to know that in my couple months of experience of wearing this, I definitely haven't featured any difficulties or problems with the watch, and I expect that it's going to run normally. My only concern in the long term would be the quartz movement in here eventually will probably have to be replaced. Most of the quartz movements that I've had for more than 10 years end up needing to be replaced. They're just not long-term units that can be serviced in the same way. This is a Seiko quartz movement, a Seiko TMI movement, so it should be easily able to be replaced in the future, but it's definitely something to be aware of, that this is probably not a great watch to wear if it's the only watch you want to wear for the rest of your life. So the things that I really like about this watch, I love the bold design of the dial. I like all the detail that was spent trying to really draw your eye to the chronograph function. I think that all of the different design aspects of the Hawker Hurricane are carried out pretty much in every aspect of the watch design, and I really like that. I like that you had the round roll on the front as well as on the crown, and then you have a profile of the Hawker Hurricane on the back. I think that the watch has some very good materials for the price range. Sapphire crystal, stainless steel case. It's a nice solid crown, operates very smoothly. Definitely a reliable instrument in the last couple months that I've been using it. I would say that I also definitely like the strap that it comes on. I think it suits the watch very nicely. That said, there are some problems in my opinion, or things that I wish were different. First of all, there's that lume, which I showed you already. The use of a single dome sapphire crystal does mean that you get some distortion at extreme angles. Upgrading to a double dome would definitely make that dial even more distinctive. I think that the movement is also a limiting factor on this watch, because even though they've really maximized the complications to highlight the design themes of the watch, I think that the use of a more sophisticated, like a mecha quartz movement or even a full mechanical, would yield more functionality out of the actual chronograph. It's kind of useless, in my opinion, to have a seconds hand that's just regularly ticking on the main hand, and then also have a sub-seconds hand and have that 1/10 seconds hand. I mean, I don't know what kind of precise measurements you're going to need, that you're going to need all of those second and sub-second counters. I really wish that this seconds hand, the main seconds hand, the big red one that you're seeing ticking around, actually was part of the chronograph. I think that that's one of the joys of a chronograph, is seeing that bold seconds hand coming to life and basically directing the whole face of the watch to the timekeeping that a chronograph would call for. So having it go independently is a bit of a letdown for me. Overall, this is a really solid alternative to the Seiko and Citizen quartz chronographs that you're going to see in this price range. I think that it features a very unique styling that's going to be very different than a lot of the much more basic pilot styles that you're going to see at this price range. I think that you're also much less likely to see this in the wild. So it's a great, unique choice that I think, as your aviation themed collection grows, will remain a unique piece in your collection. This is an example of kind of like the airplanes that you saw at the beginning of this video, having fun with an aviation theme without having to necessarily go and buy a Lear jet. But it is definitely a watch for someone who doesn't mind going off the beaten path a little bit and finding something that is much more accessible than a lot of the mainstay aviation chronographs that we're seeing in the market. What do you think of aviation-themed chronographs? I'd love to hear your comments about that below. Is a chronograph an important complication for you to have in your collection? Do you think that this watch utilizes a chronograph function in an effective way? Please let me know. And as always, thanks a lot for your time. If you're new to the channel, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Thanks a lot. Beautiful.